On this episode of K12 Tech Talk, we are at the K12TechPro Back to School Virtual Meetup. It's Chris, it's Josh, and it's Mark, and we're hanging out with K12 TechPro and all of its members. We're members of K12 TechPro, and we're recording this episode on the fly as schools across the nation and beyond are getting ready for back to school. And we know that that means that tech departments in those schools are getting ready for back to school. Teachers coming back, nurses coming back, secretaries are back, counselors are back. So we thought it would be a good time to breathe, to take a second, to think about why we got into K12 Tech and some things that we can do to get us started for a great school year. Episodes like this one are brought to you because of our sponsors. We want to give them a quick shout out. ManagedMethods. Check them out for your Google stuff, your Microsoft stuff. Go to ManagedMethods.com. Extreme Networks. You can email Dominic over there. It's dmayer@extremenetworks.com. Fortinet. Fortinet podcast at Fortinet.com. We have an interview coming up with them that's probably going to be out next week. And then special new sponsor is Prey. That's Prey, Prey. We're going to hang out with them for the next several weeks, get to know their product, their service a little bit better, their take on device management. They can tell you your battery percentage on your devices, last connection status, last seen, that kind of thing. They have some scheduled automations based upon time or events. You can get into things like screen locking based upon time or marking a device as missing based upon particular things. Again, K12 Tech Pro Virtual Meetup. Have a great day and have a listen.
All right, Mark, I'm making you a co-host.
There we go.
Josh, I'm making you a co-host.
Are you sure you want this?
No, did your alarm not go off?
No, I've actually been here since, I'm going on hour 3 right now at being at work, so.
No way.
He's had 3 hours of being angry this morning, so yes, he's definitely
I started out my day swapping over some GBIC. So we ran a bunch of new internal fiber, single node fiber, 10 gig in our buildings, and I had to come in at about 6 this morning and swap over one of our buildings MDF to IDF connection because they have registration going on during the day, and I can't do it during the day. So the only time to do it was at 6:15 this morning.
I have fiber down at one of my buildings, but it's just the kindergarten teachers. And I'm trying to school's not started yet.
Chris, are you recording?
Yes.
Okay.
Shout out to all the kindergarten teachers who Chris just said it's just the kindergarten teachers.
Yeah, don't put me in that boat, Mark.
Yeah, that was very clearly Chris who insulted he's going to do the webinar instead of fixing the kindergarten teachers' internet.
It's
shout
getting
out to
worked
Chris.
on. Okay, it's getting worked on.
Awesome.
Quickly, if the 45 people in here, jump into the chat and send.
The chat's disabled. They can do Q&A.
Okay. Do a Q&A. Why is chat disabled? Tell us where you're from.
Because I did the wrong Zoom settings probably.
Oh my God.
We're not used to doing webinars, Josh.
Okay. Well, somehow tell us where you're from.
Q&A. There
Awesome.
they are.
Cool.
They're popping in.
Awesome. Okay, so we're here. Man, I'm like, so can I just do it all like this from my desk? I need to adjust my camera. Yeah, this is awesome. I'm glad we're recording this.
I love it.
So I guess we should get started. Mark, do you want to tell us how and when you created this agenda?
To be fair, I have been working on this agenda for the last couple of weeks because we do a weekly episode. So I kind of have a list of the different topics and things, but I've had a lot of air trouble in the last month, and so I had some time at the airport yesterday to finalize everything. So, you there?
Was it because of CrowdStrike?
No. Although I did travel on the day of CrowdStrike, so that was lovely. And then yesterday I was coming home to Boston and got stuck in some weather. So yeah, I'm having a bad summer with airlines. I'm just gonna stop flying.
Man, we have somebody from the UK in here.
Very cool.
Holla.
Awesome.
Georgia in the room, Texas in the room,
Dean.
Michigan in the room. Who is it?
Dean Bates.
Dean from
Visor.
Visor.
Michigan,
Yeah, Visor,
New
Visor.
York,
Visor Dean.
Indiana.
All right.
Where-
So the agenda we've worked up today is kind of back to school stuff, right? Mark, while Mark was hanging out in airports, which I think he enjoys doing, honestly, he came up with the agenda of back to school and starting your year, how to start your year on the right foot, how to keep your head in the right space, what tasks you need to get started with and make priority to get your year started. And the first thing he came up with on the list was, and I agree with this actually.
Do you want to go with news first? Or you
Oh,
just
sorry.
right
Yeah,
ahead?
Listen,
sorry.
You got up too early. You're not even paying attention to the agenda.
My
I don't
wife
even
had
know
to brew
why-
some coffee. Yeah.
Why do I even put together an agenda if you're going to open it and then just skip around and do whatever you want?
Hey, I'm distracted
Is
by
this
my
how you
iPad.
run your faculty meetings, Josh?
Product placement. I'm drinking from my Bucky's cup. Bucky's helped me buy this iPad. So go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
All right. Let's jump in the news. So we start every week with news articles, and the purpose of the news is not just to share what's going on in the world, but also for us to talk about how you can respond and what you can learn from this. And I've got 3 articles that are very much set to help you think about, incidents that happen around the world and what you can do. The first one I'm going to start with is actually not even related to K-12, but we do need to think about this one. So there was a breach that was just recently announced or kind of uncovered, and I will put that in the chat so we can kind of see the details of this one. This is there's an organization called the National Public Data, and what they do is they
Sounds
basically
big.
just well, they just scrub data from the internet, both private and public. I don't know a lot of this, and I think that there's going to be a lot of attention on what they're doing. They were breached by a criminal group called USDOD, not the United States Department of Defense. And then these criminal groups then put their data up for sale for $3.5 million on the dark web. Why is it $3.5 million? Because this data set is the personal data of 2.9 billion people. Which includes their names, former and current addresses going back 30 years, quite a lot of social security numbers, addresses, everything. So chances are probably all of us are somewhere in this data set and our data is up for sale. And so while this is not specific to K-12, it is a big lesson that our data is out there. Even if we're taking all of the right precautions, our data is out there. There are these mega data companies that we've never even heard of before that have all of our information in their systems. And then they get breached and all of a sudden we're out there. So Josh or Chris, what are some of the things that we can do in K-12 to protect against this kind of stuff?
I don't know that it's necessarily protecting against it. It's I talked about it the other day during new teacher orientation was how important it is to have unique passwords on your different accounts. And actually, we've got a teacher right now whose Facebook account was hacked, and she's selling Bitcoin on our Facebook account now. So I went out of my way to find. Yeah, she's doing great.
There.
Apparently, she's bought 90 acres of ground, and she's trying to sell it too. I went and found her the other day, and I said, "Hey, look, I'm no judgment conversation here, but if you're using that same password that you had on Facebook that you were using for Facebook." And you're using it anywhere else, specifically for school stuff, your school email account, anything like that, it needs to change immediately. So I think that's a big one.
Yeah, I used to say, and of course I've changed my sentence here, but I used to say at least have 2 passwords in your life, your work password and your personal password. But that's not enough anymore. But you at least want that. Like, do not make your school anything the same password as anything related to your personal life.
Yeah, and another thing more related to just kind of data breaches and what happens afterwards. One of the things that we did was look for a service to do credit monitoring. So if you are responsible for a data breach, more likely than not, then you're going to be responsible for providing credit monitoring to your students and families and staff. I didn't realize how hard it was to secure that kind of stuff, both contracts, the legal terms of service, purchasing, all that kind of stuff. So What I would recommend doing when you have some downtime, obviously, this is the right time for downtime, is start to look at what options you have in your state or in your town for credit monitoring. Should you need to pull the trigger, you know exactly what your path is going to be. You know the company you're going to go to, or you know your contract, or you know your reseller for credit monitoring. There are services out there that I do LifeLock personally, but LifeLock, that's not the service that you don't want to buy that personal service for your students and faculty and staff. They're never going to understand it or how to sign it up. So there are services that you can basically contract with, and then they put together a splash page. And then what they'll do is you'll give each staff, student, or family a unique code to sign up on their own, and then essentially you just pay the bill. So you don't necessarily have to have the details ready. You don't have to have the contracts in place, but knowing what your pathway is going to be should that happen. Because if you're in the middle of a breach, you've got way more important things to focus on than trying to find credit monitoring. So, and personally, if you're not subscribing to something like LifeLock, I would highly recommend doing that.
Or just lock down your credit accounts with the 3 major agencies.
And I would say, and lock them down and do credit monitoring. So, all right, let's do the next one. Another one that is K12 cybersecurity. This one, it is painful, but I also have to chuckle a little bit. There is a device management app called Mobile Guardian. I'm not from. Are you familiar with Mobile Guardian?
No, I saw this article last night.
Yeah, so Mobile Guardian, I'm not familiar with this. This article is from Singapore, and the application was breached or compromised, and the criminals, the bad actors, used this MDM program to remotely wipe the iPads and devices for 13,000 students.
Holla.
So, so you can imagine the students are doing absolutely nothing wrong. They probably had their devices locked down, but the school district's MDM platform was compromised.
Do you think a kid, that sounds like a kid thing, like a middle schooler?
I don't know. It sounds like a great prank to do if you're a middle schooler. It sounds like a great prank if you're a former employee. I know that had actually happened out my way in Massachusetts, where a former tech department employee was leaving and wiped out a whole bunch of accounts. Or it could be a really good ransom attack. So, Josh, Chris, we all have MDMs. What are you doing to protect your MDM platform?
I think I need to do what Josh was doing earlier. Please, not me. That's what I'm doing.
That's a really good question. So MDM wise, I mean, the real MDM we're using is Mosel for our iPads, but we have a relatively small iPad footprint compared to Chromebooks. Like we really probably have under 60 iPads in use compared to 3,500 Chromebooks. And I guess brings up a good question. We need to make sure that we've got MFA and stuff like that turned on for Mosel. With Google, all of our accounts in Google require MFA now, so you're not getting into an admin account with MFA being prompted. That's what we're doing.
And I would just I ditto that. And something else that it raises this thing of as far as Chromebooks go. And I'm not going to say if I do this or not, but it's been talked about. A lot of us have our Google admin stuff just, tied to our accounts as tech, the account that my Google account that I check my email with is also the Google account that I manage Google admin with. But, we don't do that in Windows land. We make ourselves Elevate. That some of us need to go back and maybe think about that a little bit.
Yeah.
If we should do some different things in Google land or in Apple land, as far as elevation goes, in addition to your MFA stuff.
Yeah, separating your accounts. We had for our MDM, I had a different account that I would use to log into that. Both my regular account and my admin account had two-step verification on it. One, just to kind of hit the point home of why you have separate accounts. When you're in your normal account, you're clicking emails. You're more likely to click a spam email or a phishing email. You're more likely to get a compromised extension. So when you have an admin account that's separate from your day-to-day account, that's more likely to be a clean account and less likely to have some sort of infection or compromise. And then if you can also, separate when you're doing day-to-day activities, or if you have maybe you have campus or other techs who are in that account and they need, an elevated access. If you can find the most dangerous functions in the MDM and limit that to as small number of people as possible. If you're giving your campus tech folks the ability to remotely wipe a device, their accounts could do just this. And if you've got, 5,000 students or 3,000 students in your district, and you now are thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, that library paraprofessional has the remote wipe access, she could do the same thing. Maybe that's an option for you, or an opportunity for you to kind of take that permission away. I totally get, though, that taking permissions away from people is a political hot mess. But and I'll pop this article in here. This might be your opportunity to say to people, look, I trust you. It's your account that we need to safeguard. It's not about distrusting you. I have full trust in your abilities and your stuff. I want to make sure that your account isn't used maliciously should something happen to you.
That's a great way to put that, Mark.
We did the same thing with we had everybody and their mother who wanted admin access to our calling system to make phone calls and text messages. And it's like, look, I trust you. I know you're not going to make a mistake, and you're not going to make a spelling mistake. But if your account is compromised, we cannot afford to have a robocall go out to all students and families at 4 a.m. So, all right. And then the last article, this is one we have talked about this. So the last news headline, we have talked about this on the podcast, but it is such an important thing right now that we cannot let this go by. And that is E-rate. And so all of us depend on E-rate, except for probably that one person in the UK. But for that person, E-rate is a federal funding program. And the backstory to this one is that E-rate is a small little tax on every cell phone and internet bill. That money goes into
fee, Mark. It's a
I
fee.
know. I got to be careful with tax or fee or however we want to put it. Let me put it this way. There's a line item on your bill, and that money goes into a central pool, and then all of us school districts apply, and libraries apply for funding for that E-rate program. E-rate is a highly successful and highly bipartisan program. Both Republicans and Democrats highly support this program. I've never heard in my entire life, I've never heard someone criticize the E-rate program.
Man, E-rate sucks.
Except for the 5th District or 5th Circuit Court down in Louisiana, who said, "Oh, great program," and they did praise the program. They said it's a great program, but it's unconstitutional, and so it has been deemed unconstitutional, which means there's a timer that has been started for appeals and adjustments to be made before E-rate would go away.
It's been around since the 90s.
Yeah.
But here we are, 2024.
2024. And I read the brief, and I hate to say this, I do agree with what they're saying, that you have a federal agency delegating a fee or a tax, which could be perceived as a tax, to private companies to collect money, bring that into the federal government, and then disperse it. So when you think about it that way,
because it is weird, like when you think about like your AT&T, they had that they were, which I guess they didn't have to embrace E-rate,
right?
But they had to hire a lot of employees and do a lot of paperwork because of this thing that came from the feds. Like that is an interesting, when you call timeout and kind of think through how the whole process works.
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, government just told that business to collect this thing.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, a comparison would almost be like excise tax, right? Where you have the government determining that we're going to collect taxes on every gallon of gasoline that's sold, and then that excise tax is going to go back into infrastructure.
Or it'd be like, Mark, you're from Boston, like charging for tea. Like,
we don't do that. We don't. Yeah, we throw your E-rate taxes into the harbor up here. So it's in jeopardy. And there's rightfully so, there's a lot of people freaking out about this. In my opinion, is E-rate going away? No. there is going to be a pathway to continue this program. It's just going to look a little different. What I anticipate is, I mean, there's a lot of organizations and a lot of politicians right now freaking out about this and kind of planning their response to this. And I don't anticipate we're really going to see a lot of interruptions or see any interruptions. I do anticipate for those of us in school districts, we're going to see a lot of noise. You're going to have a lot of companies who are going to, come up and say, look, hey, we need this program back. And Chris, you mentioned, well, what about Verizon and Sprint? Like they're all like, this is an infrastructure for them. If you think about it, it's a circle back to them because they're collecting the money. They give it to the feds give it to us, and then we just give it right back to them. So this is a revenue generating mechanism for everybody in the entire chain. The private companies, the
Did
telecoms.
you guys hear that? That was a kindergarten teacher calling me.
Mark, are you friends with the chairman of the FCC? Can we call her?
No, Jessica Rosenworcel. Obviously, she's come out pretty negatively against this one as well. So what can we do about this?
E-rate like gone irate. We're ticked.
First off, nothing is changing for this year. There is an appeals process that has to run through. They allow for an appeal before any changes are made. You'll start to hear the way the feds work is nothing happens until the last minute, and then that's when everything moves. So I anticipate you're going to hear a lot of noise for the school year. You're going to hear a lot of people saying, hey, would you sign on this letter of support for E-rate? By all means, please show your support. But I wouldn't panic too much. I wouldn't start going to your superintendent and your CFOs, your budget people, and saying, I need hundreds of thousands of dollars now because this money's going away.
I already done did it.
Don't be like Josh. It's worth mentioning to them. It is worth mentioning, hey, this program that we are benefiting from has just been deemed unconstitutional. There's a lot of noise. We could be at risk. But it's not time for the panic button yet. Unless you're Josh. Yeah.
I live in a persistent state of panic. It's what gets me up in the morning.
Well, I mean, maybe if you're able to go to your superintendent and say it's going away, I'm going to need X number of dollars, and then E-rate kind of comes back and boom, you've got some more money. Great, but you don't want to be the boy who cried wolf just yet. So, Josh, Chris, any closing thoughts on E-rate or any of the articles we talked about? It's
going to be interesting to watch this play out. Our friend Doug Levin has picked this up and is running with it. He's made a few posts about it. It's going to be really interesting to watch this play out and see how if it does. I mean, I assume it's going to make it to the Supreme Court. It'll be really interesting to see. I mean, we all know how that court currently leads, so it's going to be interesting to see that opinion, how that's going to come down, and if they come down with the opinion of the Fifth Circuit was right, how is E-rate or what is it? It's not the USF, what the funding agency that collects the ESF, how that funding agency is going to pivot to either keep E-rate alive or is it going to die? But I don't anticipate a ruling or the Supreme Court picking this up for at least a year, right, Mark?
No, I don't know the Supreme Court's calendar, but they're going to have to.
You don't?
Sorry. I don't know how that stuff works. All of a sudden, it's just like there's a big headline that something's illegal now, and but yeah, you'll probably see a lot of noise in the spring and summer.
Mark, you said it on the last podcast episode, like even if E-rate, the whole thing could change completely. I don't think government, Republican or Democrat, is going to let the money part of this that has helped public schools and other organizations so greatly since the 90s, whatever happens with this, I think government will make sure that a program of whatever is in place to get the wording right, to get it all figured out, whatever it ends up being. Hopefully it just stays E-rate and the process that we're used to is the same or similar.
I would love to spend the next hour speculating what happens to E-rate if there's a Republican or a Democrat in the White House. But we're not going to do that. And we've said
we'll probably start fighting each other.
We probably would. And Josh is going away now.
I saw his face changed.
Oh man, I just made a really hilarious comment that I'm not going to repeat because
That's good. We don't put politics in the pod. There's no politics in the pod.
But offline, you and I are going to debate this.
No, I think whatever.
Josh, do you want to go back to where you started and
Yeah, I can. Let me open my notepad here. So like I said earlier, we wanted to talk about how to start the year off on the right foot and how to set that foundation to get the year going. And where we are the week where new teachers are coming. All of our teachers report back Monday. We have convocation next week. Kids show up the 19th. So we're in the middle of it. Unlike Chris, we're not ignoring teachers right now. So the first thing that Mark came up with on this agenda was making personal connections, and specifically with the leadership in your district, building principals, other directors. I've reminded you have to have a really good relationship with your maintenance director to get things done at times. So making those personal connections, taking time. That's one of the reasons why I was a little bit late this morning getting in was we all had to meet with new teachers again this morning and welcome them again. But on the way out, the majority of our principals and directors stood in the parking lot and had just a quick stand-up 10-minute meeting. What's going on? What do we need to be aware of? And then, a couple jokes and some funny stories took place. So building those personal relationships, making sure that your principals understand or your leadership team understands that they can approach you and ask you questions. And then taking the time to build those personal relationships. A couple of my principals are moving kids to college. My superintendent had to moved her kid across the country. So getting to know your coworkers on that personal basis really helps.
Yeah, and it also helps when I hate to use the phrase like banking some points with your staff, but when you have issues down the road. And they get to school at 7 a.m. and the fiber is down and Chris is busy on some webinar instead of fixing his kindergarten teacher's internet. They're more likely to give you a little bit of a break when they know you personally. They know your family, or they know what your summer plans were. They know that you're human. They're not going to treat you like just a vendor or somebody who's just gonna, fix this. They're more likely to treat you like a human when you have an issue. So bank those points now, have a personal connection, a conversation with the principal, ask about their summer, tell them what you did during your summer, start off right, so that when you have issues down the road, they're going to give you some space.
I was just pulling up my Infinite Campus Zoom, all the dates. So we're moving, from Tyler Sys to Infinite Campus, and there's seriously over 40 something meetings of 2 to 4 hours a piece that have impacted secretary, counselor, principal, teacher, nurse, cook. I have banked on, and we're getting ready, school's getting ready to start, and this transition is going to really hit. And I have banked on the personal connection, and this sucks for everybody. We're all in this together, and those conversations, the relatable, the relationship stuff, I'm just banking on that to help us get through the hard work and the hard conversations when data's not getting moved quite like we thought, or settings need to get configured and it's more burden on everybody. Like you said, when fiber's down and you do need some help from that building they know that Chris did actually make a phone call and Chris is actually working on it. You're banking on those relationships being built to get you through those big things. And even the back to school, just the busyness of, hey, our help desk is overwhelmed right now. If you have a personal relationship with the principal, even being your advocate in the middle between teacher and tech department, it's gonna help you get through your back to school.
All right, Josh, want to do the next one? He's on mute.
Oh, geez.
Let me get from muting myself. Another idea to have ready, or some information to have ready, is when you're having a conversation with administration and the topic of So what you do all summer, you need to have that list of your summer work and your summer accomplishments ready, and kind of brag on yourself at that point. Hey, we had 10 new runs of internal single mode fiber ran, and explain why that's important. We're upping our connection internally from a gig to 10 gig to these closets, and now we won't max out the connection when 1,000 Chromebooks are pulling down an operating system update at one time. Or hey, we replaced 37 cameras in this building, and now we have brand new IP cams that are recording that with local storage in the NVR. Have those accomplishments, because the work you've done over the summer is what helps the start of the school year go smooth, helps the regular year go smooth as a whole. And I was having this discussion with one of my guys the other day. A lot of the work that we do, especially over the summer, like this fiber upgrade, 95% of my teachers won't notice it. They don't know it happened. They don't need to know what happened. Honestly, they are only going to notice it if they realize, oh, hey, you know what? We're not having those hiccups of slowness every once in a while anymore. That's not going to happen. But it's nature of the beast with this role is the majority of the work that you complete on a daily basis and project work over the summer, people don't know about.
Yeah, I'm going to share, I'll put it in the chat as well. We used to do a one-page summary of what we did. So infrastructure upgrades, software upgrades. One point I want to also add to is if you can keep this to one page, that is the max that a teacher or a principal is going to read this time of year. So this was an upgrade that we had sent out for a couple of years ago. And we did it in Canva. If you're not familiar with Canva, I love it. It's a really easy to use platform. And they do education programs. So you can get the professional Canva license for free.
This is really nice, Mark. I'm impressed by this.
Thank you. I would love to take the credit, but Canva does everything. But we made this the audience was teachers and principals. They have too much going on. They don't know what they're going to do, or they don't have enough time to look for everything. So now if you look at some of these items, like number 2 is Google upgrade. We upgraded to Google licenses that summer, but we kept it to one line. It's a huge upgrade, but we kept it to one line, and then we directed people to here's where you can learn more about it. So if you can keep it simple, keep it short, and just as Josh said, brag about yourself. Brag about all the stuff you did over the summertime.
I usually try to do some, building meetings, jump around if I need to. So example of this year would be middle school. We've transitioned from teacher desktops to teacher laptops. So they need some extra tech love with that. So I've done the one pager, but more of a quick slide kind of thing to do the big picture thing of what we've done. I do catch myself though, and I think what you said is right. Make it simple. I'm wordy in emails, and that you kind of, if you reflect on it, you probably did lose them. They don't care about the technical details, but they like the one sentence that says upgraded network. It's now faster. They will understand that, or it's going to bring up some conversation later. If they remember that you said wireless was better, and then they're having slowness in their room, they're more apt to more immediately say something about that because they heard you say that it was supposed to be better.
Chris, my favorite tip, if you're, and I'm just as bad as writing really long emails. I can't help it. And I'm like, well, I can't shorten this up. Take your email, write it as you normally would, pop it into ChatGPT or Gemini and say, shorten this or make this more concise. And you'll be surprised. You can even say make this into one page.
On your recommendation, I bought a single license of Gemini, and I'm kind of loving it right now.
Very cool. On that note, our third recommendation for your start of school things of what to do to get ready for the start of school is get your communication templates ready. And one of the things, if you're not doing this, I would highly recommend it. In Google, they have, when you're composing an email, there's a templates icon, and you can create predefined or pre-generated notification templates that look really good.
It's a good idea.
And you can put your logo or your tech department's name in it. And then you don't have to have it detailed. Maybe this is a template for if an application is down. This is a template if a fiber connection is down or a network is down. And then so when you're busy working on something, pop up that template, maybe adjust it to say, this is the application, this is the campus that's down, send it out, and you're off and running. They look good, and they will save yourself some time down the road. We're going to have outages this year, so might as well be prepared for it.
We spent extra time in our help desk system. It would do, well, it can do some auto reply stuff, but it will do some templates. So we have an awful lot of projectors that need aligned again, or projectors that just won't turn on, typically back to school, right? Or smartboard not working. And we always ask the teacher the same 1-2 questions. Look up at your projector. Can you tell us what the model is? Whatever. Spending the extra time to make those templates with like your help desk system, or like you're saying, those emails that you're always going to send out, it's worth it. It even helps you just not have to think about like what you're going to say. Again, like a network outage, that Chris of right mind typed the email template to go out when the network's down. That's a whole lot easier to send out than me trying to come up with the 1-2 sentences really quick to send out.
Yeah, and just don't worry about the details, because you can't write a notification template now without knowing what the issue is. But write a very generic message. You'll be a lot happier 2-3 months from now when you're just going into that message and just fine tuning it or editing it or just adding in a name of a product or a date. So, and Gemini, ChatGPT works.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you want to get that license at Gemini and play with it, then by all means. It's having it wrapped into Gmail and Docs and Sheets is pretty neat. It'll summarize emails and help you create emails and all that fun stuff. The last one, start with a clean workspace. I really hope Mark wasn't talking about desks at that point, because that's why I'm not showing you my office right now. It's a dumpster.
Let's see it. Give us like a quick. Give us like a.
Come on, yeah, come on, Josh. Is it papers? Is it cables? What you got?
Everything.
Broken Chromebooks?
No broken Chromebooks. Hang on. Go ahead. Keep talking, and I'll turn it off.
It sounds stupid. It sounds like a waste of time, but honestly, put the background back on. Put the background back on.
What is that pile of stuff?
I had liquid IV. I have prime. Hydration is important, people. You need to be hydrated.
So my point was, don't be grumpy, Josh, and have a cluttered workspace, and that will clutter your mind. It will cause you to be more frustrated. If you've got an hour or so to just kind of tidy up your desk and put stuff where they belong, make a paper pile where you put your papers. You don't have to go through and do a full deep cleaning, but if you walk in on the first day of school into a clean workspace, you're going to be in a much better state of mind. And I hate to say it, I'm the one who will allow my desk and allow my office to kind of get out of control. But when I clean it, I remember like, oh, yeah, that does make a difference. So, Josh.
It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Everything on there is I need.
I don't know about some of the stuff on the floor.
Yeah, no, that's all stuff I need.
I have to say too, just professionally, it sets a much better message for people who walk into your office and they see a professional workspace. They're going to treat you.
Where no one comes here. We're in the basement. You can't access. You have to access from the outside, and the door is locked. So yeah, no one comes here.
So Josh is in a trash bunker in the basement.
Yep. We call it the dungeon, actually, or the hole.
Got it. All right. Well, never mind. Just
yeah, it's fine, Josh.
Yeah. Lock your door and hunker down. And yeah.
Hey, and we did have one more, Josh. You've really not paid attention to any of the. Are you just looking at the text?
Yeah.
Okay. That explains
Mark
a whole
sent
lot.
a formal document to us.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
There is one more.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well, it's to breathe.
Oh,
take it in.
Yeah.
Chill, relax. Remember why you're doing what you're doing. Hopefully you got into K-12 for the right reasons, right? Don't forget why you're working to begin with. You want students to be safe. You want students to learn. You want students to be fed. You want students to have a great day. You want to help teachers with the right resources. You want them to be able to teach well. Despite my kindergarten teacher jokes, I do love kindergarten teachers. I want them to teach those littles well. So don't forget that, because back to school sucks.
Yeah, don't forget your kindergarten teachers. Chris.
Mark, what grade did you teach?
3rd to 5th.
Nice.
I have full respect for the kindergarten teachers. I couldn't do it. Couldn't. Kids ask me how to go. I need to go to the bathroom. I'd say go right ahead. Nope, can't do that in kindergarten. Anyways, yeah. I think Chris summarized that perfectly. This is the time of year when everybody's stressed. Teachers, principals, administrators, and if you can make a connection with somebody, a colleague in another district. The three of us have gone through many starts of school, and we all know the pain. We all know the frustration of every little small problem combined with all the big problems. So if you can find a time to go out for dinner or go out for a drink with a colleague who's going through the same thing as you, or give them a call, give one of us a call, and if you need help or just need a vent, totally up for some venting. Trust me, Chris and I helped Josh quite a lot with his venting.
Yeah.
I actually, the last podcast episode, we had to cut out. I mean, I had a whole segment where I just vented.
We both vented.
And Josh was mostly distracted by his iPad, but I looked up and my face was red, and Josh was like staring at me like, Chris, you've lost it.
Chris, just give the topic of what you were venting about.
It was Infinite Campus.
Yep. Yep. So.
And Chris, I think you and I have talked every night this week about campus, right?
We have. I'm absolutely in the thick of it. And it's not fun. Like, I'm not like, I have to remind myself that I can enjoy my day. But it's not been a blast. This is the week before teachers come back in full force for us. So you get a lot of elementary teachers and secondary that are back to set up their rooms. So we're starting to get, the uptick in tickets that we know this is going to happen, but we're not quite ready for it to happen, especially with Infinite Campus on top. We snuck in this back to school day that I'm kind of going to be in and out as the day progresses, right? But I'm still doing Infinite Campus Zoom meetings just left and right. I met with 30 plus teachers earlier this week for 4 hours. I could easily not like that day, but I felt like I handled that day okay because I acknowledge that I have 30 plus teachers that came in to learn gradebook and these things. So I can appreciate them, and hopefully, it's this build each other up thing. Yesterday, I hung out with 20 plus food service staff that are not the tech savviest people in our school district. And again, your headspace on how you're going into that kind of meeting, knowing that you're going to be getting people logged into their Google account because they haven't logged into it since their phone took it and they've been fined for 2 years. It's going to be that kind of meeting. So your headspace and that you're breathing and remembering what's going on. That's really, I know it's been really important for me, and encouragement from my peers to, hey, it's going to be okay. Hey, it gets better, that kind of stuff. That's real. We don't want to be depressed and salty K-12 tech departments across America and beyond.
We just have to remind you that you're picking up your Tesla Saturday. So
I am getting a Tesla, and that could be Mark's going through a midlife crisis. I just needed to get myself something to make me smile again. Something. No, but that's the real. And again, real talk of as folks are coming back, you can have a great time. Like, people are coming back. You haven't seen them for months. That's
are the first words out of your mouth. I'm getting a Tesla.
No, I'm staying humble. You've brought it up more than I am. Now,
to be clear, Josh has brought up Teslas way more than all three of us, all of us combined. So we can tell he's working his wife pretty hard to get that
she's
Tesla.
giving me permission. I'm the holdup now.
We need to do it.
The insurance is like, no.
There we go again.
Just
Here we go.
Anyway,
always...
breathe. We all need to breathe. I need to remind myself to breathe. It's all going to be cool.
That's it. That's what we had for the episode. If you're not listening to our podcast, this is what we normally do. We do a bunch of news. We'll do a user question or email, and then have one main topic to discuss. And usually it involves quite a lot of venting from Chris about Infinite Campus, and just normal general venting from Josh.
Yep. And sometimes jokes.
Yes.
As we wrap, anyone have any questions for us? We have a couple minutes to spare here. We could answer any questions. You can put them in the Q&A. If not, we're going to wrap and start transitioning into the next session. We'll wait just a minute.
I wish you could see if someone was typing.
Right.
Chris, I'm proud of your wait time here. This is some really good instructional practices.
I'm trying.
Did you learn that from the teachers? Or he's just distracted?
I'm just distracted. No, so here's a comment. Someone said, I'm going to go around during open house and check in with teachers and make sure they have everything tech-wise they need for teaching and to make sure everything works or that they know how to use their technology. I think open house is a great time to do some friendly check-ins. All right, so the time is 10 o'clock. We will still be in the room. So if you have any questions, still ask. But we're going to transition into our next.
We might not be the same. You share the same pain that I do.
The views and opinions expressed on the K12 Tech Talk podcast are the personal opinions of Josh, Chris, and Mark, and do not represent the views or opinions of our sponsors or other organizations that we're affiliated with. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
We were buying words about a phrase of the way and selling songs just as